Emotional Vocabulary Series by Duenas. The emotion of vulnerable. What does it mean to feel exposed and unguarded? Explore the emotion of vulnerability, its roots, its effects, and how embracing it can lead to growth and connection. Introduction. Vulnerability is the emotional experience of feeling exposed or unprotected, often accompanied by fear of rejection or harm. While vulnerability can feel uncomfortable, it is essential for building trust, intimacy, and personal growth. This emotion reflects our willingness to open up and connect, despite the risks involved. Understanding vulnerability allows us to navigate it constructively, fostering deeper relationships and resilience. Including vulnerable in our emotional vocabulary is key to embracing authenticity and strength. Definitions of vulnerable. Layman's definition of vulnerable. Feeling vulnerable means experiencing a sense of exposure or defenselessness, often accompanied by fear or hesitation. Clinical definition of vulnerable. Vulnerability refers to an emotional state characterized by openness to emotional risk, often involving fear of rejection, failure, or harm. Perception and expression in everyday contexts. Vulnerability is expressed through sharing personal thoughts or emotions, asking for help, or stepping out of one's comfort zone. It reflects courage and the desire for connection. Origins of this emotion. Evolutionary roots of vulnerable. Vulnerability evolved as a survival mechanism, signaling the need for support and protection in times of danger or uncertainty. Cultural dimensions of vulnerable. Cultural attitudes shape perceptions of vulnerability. In some societies, vulnerability is viewed as weakness, while others see it as strength and authenticity. Biological mechanisms of being vulnerable. Vulnerability involves activation of the amygdala, which processes fear, and the prefrontal cortex, which governs decision-making and emotional regulation. Hormones like oxytocin are also linked to bonding and trust during moments of vulnerability. Effects of vulnerable. Effects on the psyche. Vulnerability fosters self-awareness, courage, and empathy, but can also lead to fear or shame if not embraced constructively. Effects on daily life. This emotion shapes habits, such as seeking support, taking risks, or avoiding situations perceived as threatening. Effects on family and friends. Vulnerability strengthens relationships by fostering trust and emotional intimacy. Effects on the workplace. Embracing vulnerability in professional settings enhances collaboration, creativity, and leadership, though excessive fear of exposure can hinder participation. Effects on freedom. While vulnerability can feel limiting, embracing it expands personal freedom by encouraging authenticity and connection. Examples. Personal story. A person feels vulnerable after sharing a personal struggle with a friend, but is met with support and understanding, strengthening their bond. Societal behavior. Vulnerability is often at the heart of social movements, as individuals share their experiences to inspire change. Historical event. Vulnerable leadership during crises, such as public acknowledgments of mistakes, often fosters trust and unity. Challenges and mental health of the emotion of vulnerable. Fear of vulnerability contributes to anxiety, social withdrawal, and difficulty building relationships. It often leads to emotional suppression, creating barriers to personal growth and connection. Management and mitigation of the emotion of vulnerable. Strategies. Therapy. Counseling helps address fear of vulnerability and build emotional resilience. Practice openness. Sharing small, manageable aspects of oneself fosters confidence in vulnerability. Mindfulness practices. Techniques like meditation improve self-awareness and emotional regulation. Resources. Books on vulnerability and emotional courage, such as Brené Brown's works. Support groups for building trust and openness. Counseling services for navigating fear of exposure. Conclusion. Vulnerability is a powerful emotion that reflects our capacity for connection, growth, and courage. By understanding its triggers and embracing it constructively, individuals can foster deeper relationships and personal resilience. Emotional intelligence around vulnerability empowers us to live authentically and build trust with ourselves and others, creating a more fulfilling and connected life. This was The Emotion of Vulnerable. Emotional Vocabulary Series by Roy Duenas.